This is the turbine that the water goes through to power the generator to make electricity here at Bonneville Dam, and you're watching the Flaming Brain Podcast.
Hi, welcome back to the Flaming Brain Abides. I'm your host, Brian, and today is another day about inventions, Inventors Workshop. Um, Now, if you remember from my first episode of Inventors Workshop, I talked about how I had invented this hard hat in 1977, and it had a solar cells and an electric fan to keep the air flowing. And I never did anything with it, which was typical. I tried to, but and then a couple of months ago, I went online just for shits and giggles and found several companies building essentially the same thing. So what I want to talk about here is this idea that I've always maintained that when someone gets an idea for a new invention, it could be another person out there think of the same thing, or 10 people think of the same thing, or 10,000 people think of the same thing. I've had experiences where like someone would come up to me when they heard I was an inventor and they'd want to start telling me about a new invention they had, and they'd start getting into it, and it would be something that I had already thought about or was maybe even thinking about at that time. And it's common. So I've always believed lightning doesn't just strike one point when a new idea comes. It actually strikes lots of points. But just like a foot race, there's always however many people are running in that race, only one of them typically is going to get to the finish line first and be able to capitalize on their invention. Now here's another a good example. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, nowadays you'll find little kids' shoes have lights in the midsole. I think LA Gear was the first to do this in the early 80s, but it wasn't a totally new idea. You see, in 1979, I actually had this idea. I called them Nike lights. I wanted to get Nike interested, and they had red LEDs in the midsole, because at that time, red LEDs were the only ones available. Now, it's kind of a bittersweet thing when you see something you've invented or thought of, and someone else capitalizes on it before you. I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of like vindication that, hey, that idea I had was a good idea. But only one person is going to get to the finish line first. So, I wanted to try and make a deal with Nike, and that never happened. So, and this is common, happens all the time. Here's another great example. So in 1981, I had an idea for a new type of a water gun using a pressurized tank. This device was designed to be screwed onto the top of like a 1 liter soda bottle, and then that was hold the water and the air pressure. And I wanted to do a promotion with Pepsi. So it was a very simple product, and since it didn't have to and come with a tank, it would be easier to package and market because it would be a much smaller item. Now, I'm sorry these are coming out sideways, but when I try and make them vertical, they get cut off at the top and bottom. So anyway, I thought this was a great idea, but like so many other things, I never even put much effort into trying to market it or find someone interested. But before I could ever do anything with it, a brilliant NASA engineer named Lonnie Johnson invented the Super Soaker. Now, this is an idea I had. Oh boy, I didn't write the date. This was probably back around the early 90s, and the idea was to have a little scuba tank or a set of them that you could pressurize with its own built-in hand pump, and it'd give you maybe 3 minutes of breathing air underwater. So it was really interesting. I never built it. However, not too long ago, I was watching YouTube, and there's actually now companies building things very, very similar to this. So in 1994, I had come up with a new concept for pepper spray. You see, normal pepper spray comes in pressurized canisters, like any aerosol. And according to DOT, Department of Transportation regulations, they can only be pressurized to 77 pounds per square inch, which is not a whole lot of pressure. I always figured that if you could use more pressure, you could create a better stream, a more atomized stream, a more effective stream. So I came up with this idea to create these little cylinders, kind of like a syringe with a plunger in it. And you put the pepper spray juice inside, and then at the very back, behind the plunger, you had a little, either a percussion cap, like what you find in a primer in any round of ammunition, or an electric igniter that would fire a charge, and then that plunger would be forced forward, and you'd get that pepper spray blast like a blast from a shotgun, and you could develop any amount of pressure, not just 77, but 150, 300 psi, it just whatever you wanted, you could do. So I had this thing. I built some prototypes. So here now you can see the layout for a single shot version. At the top, you'll see the cartridge with the plunger, the primer, and the little handle that it would fit into. And this one used a percussion cap like a primer in a round of ammunition. Now here you can see the same cartridge, except instead of a percussion cap, it uses a little electrical igniter, so there's no moving parts. There's just a tiny charge of gunpowder. And then down below you can see the configuration for a 2-shot device. And this is my favorite. It was a 6-shot device, and it was real sleek. The handle folded up to protect the end and to protect the button, the trigger. And you flipped it open, and boom, 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 boom. You had 5 shots, and it had a high-powered LED light to light up what was in front of it. So about maybe 10 years ago, I was in a gun store, and I found this little product by a company called Kimber that looks to be identical to what I had designed. 2 little cylinders, each one's a single shot. And then, of course, they came up with a cooler looking one and stuff. And let's see, I know I bought several of these, and pretty sure that this one, this is really bad. Don't ever get pepper. don't ever get pepper sprayed.